Ariana Cole sat quietly in the private dining room, trying her best to look calm. She was 28, a hard-working nurse who had grown up with very little. Tonight was supposed to be special, a pre-engagement dinner with her fiancé, Brandon Hale, and his wealthy friends. The room was expensive, the kind of place she would never have entered if not for Brandon. At first, Brandon placed his hand on her shoulder like everything was normal. But then he started making small comments. "Your dress is simple," he whispered, smiling tightly. "You know, Ariana didn't grow up around events like this," he told his friends with a laugh. Ariana felt her cheeks warm, but she forced a smile. She tried to ignore it. Brandon didn't stop. He leaned back in his chair, sipping his wine. "She's a nurse, very hardworking of course," he said loudly. "But she still doesn't understand how things work in our world." His friends exchanged awkward looks. Ariana's heart pounded. She tried to defend herself gently. "Brandon, that's not fair." But he cut her off. "I'm just being honest. You get too emotional." The words hit her like a slap. She lowered her eyes, hoping he would stop, but he only grew louder. "You really should have chosen a different dress," he continued. "This isn't some small-town dinner. My family expects a certain standard." Ariana swallowed hard. The room felt hotter. She could hear the blood rushing in her ears. She didn't want to cry. Not here. Brandon's friends shifted uncomfortably, but no one said anything. They just watched. Finally, Brandon leaned forward and said the words that broke what was left of her pride. "Honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm dating a charity project." The table went silent. Ariana froze. Her hands trembled under the tablecloth. Her throat burned. She stared at the empty plate in front of her, trying desperately not to fall apart. Just when she felt she couldn't breathe anymore, the door to the dining room opened. Everyone turned. A tall man stepped inside. Carter Wynn, the billionaire tech CEO everyone in the city knew about. Powerful, quiet, respected. No one expected him to be here. He stopped as soon as he saw Ariana. For a moment, the room felt different, like the air had shifted. Carter's eyes stayed on her, steady and knowing, as if he understood exactly what had just happened. Then he spoke, and his calm voice cut through the heavy silence. What he said would not be revealed until later. But the moment he spoke, Brandon went pale, his friends fell silent, and Ariana finally lifted her head. Something in the room had changed. And it started with that one sentence from Carter Wynn. Ariana grew up watching her mother work herself to the bone. Her mom was a single parent who took any job she could find, cleaning houses, sewing clothes, packing items in a small factory, just to keep food on the table. Money was always short. Some days, Ariana pretended she wasn't hungry so her mother could eat a little more. But even in the middle of struggles, her mother would smile at her and say, "One day, we will have stability. One day you will live the life I couldn't." Those words stayed in Ariana's heart. She promised herself she would build a stable, peaceful life. She studied hard, worked part-time, and chose nursing because she wanted to help people and earn an honest living. She never dreamed of wealth, only comfort, love, and a home where no one yelled, judged, or looked down on her. So when Brandon Hale walked into her life, everything felt like a miracle. He was charming, confident, and from a rich family she had only seen in magazines. He treated her like she was the most important person in any room. He sent flowers to her workplace, took her to restaurants she had only seen on TV, and told her she deserved the world. Ariana had never experienced that kind of attention. She believed he truly loved her. But slowly, small things began to change. At first, Brandon would say things like, "You don't understand how my world works," with a gentle smile. Then it became, "You're too emotional." Whenever she tried to express her feelings, sometimes he would make plans without asking her and say, "I thought you'd be happy. Why are you always complaining?" He always made her feel like the problem. If she wanted to see her mother, he would sigh and ask, "Why do you need to go there so often?" If she reminded him of something important, he accused her of nagging. When she felt uncomfortable at events with his wealthy friends, he made her feel silly for not fitting in. None of it felt like love. But Ariana kept ignoring the red flags. She kept telling herself Brandon was stressed, or tired, or misunderstood. She convinced herself that love meant patience. She didn't want to lose him. Not after believing for so long that she finally had stability. Still, deep inside her, insecurity grew like a shadow. She always felt like she was walking on eggshells. She always felt less than. She didn't dress right, didn't speak right, and didn't belong in the expensive world Brandon came from. Maya, her best friend since high school, noticed the change in Ariana immediately. Maya was bold, honest, and never afraid to speak her mind. "I don't trust him," Maya said more than once. "You're shrinking around him, Ariana. That's not love." Ariana tried to defend Brandon, but Maya's words stayed with her. Things became even harder with Mrs. Hale, Brandon's mother. Mrs. Hale was elegant, graceful, and cold. She smiled politely at Ariana, but always found a way to express her disapproval. "Ariana is sweet," she told Brandon once, not knowing Ariana was nearby. "But she is unpolished." After that day, Ariana felt even more out of place. She started doubting everything she did. How she walked, how she spoke, how she dressed. She felt like she was slowly losing herself, piece by piece. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Carter Wynn lived a completely different life. He was a billionaire tech CEO, one of the youngest and smartest in the industry. Despite his success, he was known for his humility. He never showed off his wealth and never treated anyone like they were beneath him. People admired him for his calm intelligence and quiet kindness. But there was something else, a mysterious history between him and the Hale family. A story people whispered about but never fully knew. And for some reason, Carter always looked uncomfortable whenever the Hale name was mentioned. Ariana had no idea their paths would cross again. All she knew was that she was tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of trying to fit into a world that didn't want her. Tired of feeling alone, even when someone held her hand. All she truly wanted was simple. Love. Respect. Peace. Money didn't matter to her. Luxury didn't impress her. She only wanted to be valued. But the deeper she went into Brandon's world, the more she felt herself disappearing. She didn't realize it yet, but her heart was already breaking long before the night everything finally shattered. Brandon lifted his glass and tapped it lightly, calling everyone's attention. The private dining room grew quiet. Ariana sat beside him, still shaken from all the insults he had thrown at her earlier. She hoped he would calm down now. She hoped he would stop embarrassing her. But instead, Brandon stood up and smiled at his friends. "I want to say something," he began. "I've been thinking a lot lately, and I'm reconsidering the engagement." Ariana's heart stopped. For a moment, she thought she misheard him. The guests looked at each other in shock. A few people gasped softly. The room, filled with warm lights and soft music, suddenly felt cold and heavy. Brandon continued carelessly, as if he were talking about a business plan. "Ariana is sweet, yes," he said, waving his hand. "But she just doesn't fit the family image. My parents expect someone who understands our lifestyle." Ariana stared at him, unable to breathe. Her hands shook. She felt the world closing in. One of Brandon's friends whispered, "Dude, not like this." But Brandon ignored him. "It's better to think ahead," he added. "Marrying someone from such a different background, it just doesn't make sense." Ariana felt her chest tighten. Her throat burned. She couldn't speak even if she tried. Then suddenly, another voice cut through the tension. "That's enough, Brandon." Everyone turned. It was Carter Wynn. He stepped forward, his expression calm but sharp. His presence filled the room instantly. Brandon's face stiffened. He clearly hadn't expected Carter to still be here. Carter looked at Ariana with concern before turning back to Brandon. "You're embarrassing yourself," Carter said firmly. "And you're disrespecting her." Brandon scoffed. "Stay out of it, Carter. This is personal." Carter didn't back down. "Ariana deserves better," he said. "She's the same woman who saved my sister's life years ago at a charity event. You remember that?" "No. Of course you don't." Ariana blinked, confused. She remembered the event vaguely. A little girl who collapsed, a frantic mother, and Ariana performing emergency care until help arrived. But she never knew the child was Carter Wynn's sister. Brandon rolled his eyes. "Oh please, she's a nurse. Helping people is her job." Carter's jaw tightened. "And she does it with more heart and courage than you've ever shown." The room went silent. No one dared to speak. Ariana felt her eyes fill with tears, not from Carter's words, but from everything she had held in for months. All the hurt, all the humiliation, all the pretending. Suddenly she stood up. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "I need to go," she whispered, her voice breaking. She didn't wait for anyone to stop her. She walked out of the dining room, out of the restaurant, and into the cool night air. Tears fell freely down her face now. She felt stupid, broken, and used. She leaned against the wall outside, trying to catch her breath, trying to understand how the man she loved could humiliate her so deeply in front of everyone. Footsteps approached softly. Ariana. She turned and saw Carter. His expression wasn't pity. It was something like honesty, maybe even anger on her behalf. You didn't have to follow me, she whispered. I know, he said gently. But you deserve the truth. Ariana looked at him, confused and tired. What truth? Carter took a slow breath. Brandon is using you, he said quietly. He's not with you because he loves you. He's doing this to spite his mother. You were never the choice, Ariana. Only the tool. The words hit harder than anything Brandon had ever said. Ariana felt her knees weaken. She felt her world crack open. Everything she believed about her relationship, her future, her worth, it all collapsed in a single moment. She covered her mouth, trying to hold in a sob. Carter didn't touch her. He simply stood close enough to let her know she wasn't alone. But Ariana felt completely shattered. The life she thought she was building had never been real at all. Ariana met Brandon in his penthouse the next morning. She stood near the window, her eyes tired from crying all night. Brandon walked toward her with a frustrated expression. Not guilt, not sadness, just irritation. So, she began softly. Is what Carter said true? Brandon sighed loudly, like she was bothering him. Some of it, he said. Fine. Yes, my mother didn't approve of you. And yes, I may have used our relationship to show her I can make my own choices. Ariana felt her chest tighten. So I was a tool? Brandon threw up his hands. God, Ariana, you're so sensitive. You twist everything I say. I never said I didn't care about you. You're just overreacting. Again. His words cut deeper than any insult. Ariana stood still. She finally saw him clearly. The manipulation, the blame, the lack of accountability. The man she had tried so hard to love was never really there for her. In a calm, shaking voice she said, I can't stay here. Brandon rolled his eyes. You're being dramatic. But Ariana didn't listen. She packed a small bag, ignoring his complaints and excuses. When she reached the door, Brandon finally tried to soften his tone. You'll come back, he said confidently. You always do. Ariana didn't answer. She walked out and took a taxi straight to her mother's small apartment. The warm, familiar smell made her want to cry again, but this time she held herself together. She wasn't running away, she was choosing herself. The next few days were confusing and painful. Brandon sent long messages apologizing, blaming stress, blaming everyone except himself. Sometimes he even sent threatening messages, saying she was ruining his image. Then he would switch to sweet words again. It felt like he was trying to win her back or control her. She couldn't tell which. Mrs. Hale also contacted her. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Ariana, she said coldly over the phone. You signed your name on a few shared items with Brandon. If you create trouble, I can involve our lawyers. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning wrapped in a polite smile. Ariana hung up shaking. Then the media news started spreading. Brandon Hale and nurse fiancé split over class differences. Insiders say she never fit in with the family. Online comments were even worse. Why did he even date her? She's a gold digger pretending to be innocent. She got lucky he even looked at her. Ariana felt sick. She had never asked for attention. Yet she was being dragged through the mud. She avoided her phone and hid inside her mother's apartment, afraid of the world outside. During this painful time, Carter appeared again. He reached out with a simple message. If you need help, I'm here. Ariana hesitated, but she finally agreed to meet him. When they sat together at a quiet cafe, Carter didn't ask her to explain anything. He just listened. You don't deserve what's happening, he said softly. And you shouldn't face it alone. He offered her something unexpected, help building her independence. I run a foundation that supports medical outreach. If you want to work with us, we can give you opportunities to grow. You have talent, Ariana. Real talent. She didn't say yes, not yet, but his kindness felt like safety. Meanwhile, Brandon's behavior grew worse. His pride couldn't handle that Ariana left him. He sent angry texts, then emotional ones, then cold ones. He even came to her mother's building once, yelling her name until Maya showed up and threatened to call the police. Maya stayed with Ariana that night, sitting beside her on the couch. You need to rebuild yourself, she said softly. Piece by piece. And you can. You're stronger than you think. Ariana leaned on her best friend's shoulder, finally letting herself breathe. That same night, something inside her changed. She opened a small notebook and wrote down everything Brandon had said or done to manipulate her. She saved screenshots of messages. She quietly gathered every piece of evidence, not for revenge but for protection. She wasn't the scared, confused woman she had been a few days ago. A new strength was building inside her. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew one thing. She would never let Brandon, or anyone else, take her voice again. Brandon invited Ariana to a private dinner, at the same restaurant where everything had fallen apart. He used a soft tone on the phone, a tone she had not heard in weeks. I just want to talk, he said. No fights. No pressure. Just dinner. Ariana hesitated, but a small part of her wanted closure. She wanted answers. She wanted to finally end things with her head held high. So she agreed. When she arrived at the restaurant, the memories hit her like a wave. The humiliation, the whispers, the look on Brandon's face when he called her a charity project. Her stomach tightened, but she forced herself to walk in. A staff member led her to a private room. Brandon was already there, dressed in an expensive suit, acting as if nothing bad had ever happened between them. You look beautiful, he said, smiling too easily. Ariana didn't return the smile. Why am I here, Brandon? He motioned for her to sit. Let's just eat first. But as soon as she sat down, the door opened again. Brandon's mother and two men in suits walked in. Ariana's heart dropped. Mrs. Hale gave her a polite smile. Ariana dear, we just want to settle everything peacefully. One of the men placed a folder on the table. Ariana stared at it. What is this? She asked slowly. Mrs. Hale's voice stayed smooth. Just a simple agreement. You sign it. You keep quiet about the breakup, the family, everything. It's better for everyone. Brandon added quickly. It's a standard NDA. Just sign it and we'll all move on. Ariana felt her hands tremble. You tricked me, she whispered. You brought me here to silence me. Brandon leaned forward, annoyed. Ariana, don't make this dramatic. You've caused enough trouble. Signing this will protect my reputation, and yours. Her throat tightened. For a moment, she felt small again. But before anyone could push the folder toward her, the door to the room opened once more. This time it was Carter. He walked in calmly, his presence instantly changing the atmosphere. Mrs. Hale's smile vanished. Brandon's face froze. Ariana stared in shock. Carter? What are you? I own a majority share of this restaurant, Carter said, his voice calm but dangerous. The staff told me what was happening. I thought I should stop by. Mrs. Hale stepped forward stiffly. This is a private matter. Carter raised an eyebrow. You invited her here under false pretenses. That's not private. That's manipulation. He turned to Ariana. You don't have to sign anything. Brandon snapped. Stay out of it. Carter ignored him. He picked up the NDA folder and dropped it back on the table with a sharp thud. This is illegal pressure, Carter said coldly. And it's not the first time this family has tried something like this. Ariana's eyes widened. What do you mean? Carter looked directly at her. 2 years ago, Brandon and his father tried to sabotage my company. They lied about financial documents and nearly cost hundreds of people their jobs. We avoided disaster only because we found proof in time. Brandon jumped to his feet. That's not true. You're lying. Carter didn't even flinch. I have every document. Every email. Your family has a history of manipulation and fraud, Ariana. You were not the first target, just the easiest. Ariana felt the room spin. The truth was bigger and darker than she expected. Mrs. Hale spoke sharply. Ariana, don't listen to him. He has always hated our family. But Ariana could see the panic behind her eyes. Brandon suddenly slammed his fist on the table. This is all your fault, he shouted at Ariana. If you had just behaved, none of this would have happened. You ruined everything. Everyone went silent. Ariana slowly stood up. For the first time, she wasn't shaking. She wasn't crying. She wasn't afraid. She looked Brandon straight in the eyes, calm and steady. "No, Brandon," she said quietly. "You ruined everything. You lied to me. You used me. You tried to control me. And now you want to silence me." Brandon opened his mouth to argue, but she raised her hand. "I am done letting you make me feel small." Her voice was soft, but it held more power than Brandon had ever shown. She turned to Mrs. Hale. "I won't sign anything. And I'm not afraid of your threats." Then she looked at Carter. "Thank you for telling me the truth." Carter nodded once, respectful. Ariana picked up her bag and walked toward the door. Brandon reached out as if to stop her, but she stepped back. "Don't touch me," she said firmly. For the first time, Brandon looked scared, not of losing her, but of losing control. Ariana walked out of the room with her head high, her heart finally free. She didn't look back. The power had shifted, and this time she held it. Ariana finally felt something she had not felt in years, peace. It did not come all at once. It came slowly, like sunlight entering a dark room. After the court case and after the truth about Mark Fuller was exposed, she realized her life was hers again. No one was controlling her. No one was deciding her future for her. For the first time, she was breathing for herself. Carter kept his promise. He did not leave her alone after the courtroom victory. Instead, he asked her to join his late daughter's foundation, which focused on helping low-income communities receive medical care. Ariana agreed, but not because she wanted recognition. She agreed because she understood pain. She understood what it meant to feel invisible. She wanted to help people who had nobody to fight for them. Together, she and Carter started building small medical outreach centers in rural towns. Ariana became the face of their project. Not a celebrity, not a hero, but a survivor who chose to rise. Every video interview, every news article, every social media post told the same story. She lost everything. She was betrayed. And still she stood back up. People began calling her a symbol of resilience. Women messaged her saying she gave them courage. Young girls told her they wanted to be strong like her. Ariana did not feel like a symbol. She felt like someone learning how to live again. But she accepted their words with gratitude. If her pain could help someone else heal, then maybe it all had meaning. Meanwhile, consequences finally arrived for those who hurt her. Brandon, who had lied, stolen documents, and tried to frame Ariana, now faced legal investigation. Carter's team presented evidence of Brandon's secret deals, illegal transfers, and messages proving the manipulation. Brandon's confident grin disappeared. His name was on every news channel. But for corruption, not success. Mrs. Hale, the woman who once tried to erase Ariana from the family's history, watched the Hale empire collapse. Investors pulled out. Donors withdrew support. The powerful Hale name no longer meant respect. It meant scandal. Mrs. Hale tried to blame everyone except herself, but it didn't matter. The world no longer followed her. Ariana did not celebrate their downfall. She simply felt closure. Justice had arrived, not because she begged for it, but because truth finally had a voice. In the months that followed, Ariana began transforming her own life. She moved to a quiet apartment filled with sunlight and open space, very different from the Hale mansion where every room felt like a prison. She started attending therapy. She learned to cook simple meals. She woke up without fear. She slept without nightmares. She rebuilt herself piece by piece. Carter became a steady presence in her life. Not overwhelming. Not controlling. Gentle. Respectful. He admired her strength, but never pushed her emotionally. Sometimes he brought her flowers from his garden. Sometimes they shared tea after long meetings. There was a soft connection growing between them. Not romantic yet, but sincere. A bond built on trust, not power. One evening, after finishing work at the new outreach center, Carter told her, "You remind me that healing is possible for all of us." Ariana smiled. Not shy, not nervous, but confident. That's what we're all doing, healing. But even with this new connection, Ariana made one thing clear, to herself and to the world. She chooses herself first. Her identity was no longer tied to the Hale name or her stepfather's cruelty. She was Ariana, strong, independent, deserving of peace. She reclaimed her life, her dignity, her purpose. Healing was not a destination. It was a journey she walked every single day. And with every step, she felt lighter, wiser, and more whole. Ariana did not just survive her story. She transformed because of it. Ariana revisited the same restaurant alone, the same place where her life had shattered months ago. But this time, she walked in with steady steps, a calm heart, and her head held high. No fear. No scam. No expectations. She was here because she wanted to be, not because someone else chose it for her. The waiter recognized her but said nothing. He only guided her to a table. Ariana paused for a moment, then chose the exact same seat where she had once sat during her humiliation. The night Mark exposed her, betrayed her, and tried to destroy her identity. She sat down slowly. She breathed deeply. And she let the silence speak. This time the silence didn't hurt. It healed. As she looked around, memories flashed in little pieces. The shock, the tears, the humiliation, the fear of losing everything. But instead of breaking her, those memories now felt distant, like a story told long ago. She wasn't that woman anymore. She had walked through pain, faced truth, and built herself again from the ground up. After a few minutes, she heard a familiar voice. "Good evening, Ariana." She turned and saw Carter standing nearby, holding a small paper bag, probably pastries from a nearby shop. He gave her a gentle smile, nothing too forward, nothing heavy. "You look peaceful," he said quietly. Ariana smiled back. "I think I am." Carter didn't sit. He didn't stay long. He simply nodded and added, "You've come a long way. I'm proud of you." Then he left her to her moment, exactly what she needed. Ariana looked out the window, her reflection soft and steady, and she realized something powerful, something she wished she could tell her past self sitting in this same seat months ago. She whispered to herself, "The night I thought broke me was the night I learned my worth." She stood up, feeling light, almost weightless. No tears, no pain, just freedom. Ariana walked out of the restaurant with a soft smile, stepping into a new beginning that belonged fully, beautifully, completely to her. Hey besties, thanks for watching all the way through. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing stories.